Come on. I'm going to leave it like this.
Okay.
All right. So I was getting to think that we were on with Danny and Bill Ricka last night for his fundraising live stream, which is fun. Good group of folks. One way drunker than everybody else, and could have probably been ejected without protest at the beginning. But at one point, somebody said we were talking about. I was reminiscing with the other old guy in the group, and one guy said something about me being old. He said, like, you're really old, or like you could be like you could have grandkids by now, or something like that, or like you're old enough to be somebody's father, whatever. Because I think I was telling a story about back in the 90s, and it was one of these guys who's like in his 20s, and he's right. I am old. And when I was 22, to think of the age 51 would be horrific. That was not going to happen, obviously. And when you're young, you know, everything is new and it's shiny, and I mean, things are great. You generally have no physical ailments. Your hairline is not receded. Your hair is like all whatever, and you just keep looking young. I remember being young and I would look, and like the lack of like wrinkles and lines on my face. I used to say to myself, like, why would anybody choose to get old? Why not just be young like me? But the reason I am making a point of this is just to say, this is I'm imparting this to young people, men and women, that if by calling me old, what you're really doing is calling you young.
Yeah,
because
that's fair, I suppose.
In that group, and let's say there was 8 of us, it was me and another guy with the old guys, and everybody else pretty much was in their 30s or 20s. And the only thing I would tell you, and once again, it is right. I am old by any stretch. It's old, or you like. I mean, I'm now in the 50-yard line I've crossed. So obviously, from here to the end, it's all old. I'm not a regret guy. Like, I really took advantage of my 20s and had nonstop fun. There's no doubt about that. Fun that I may financially never recover from. But there is no doubt that it was a blast, and I am happy I did. I'm happy that when I was my youngest, my best looking, etc., that we tore it up and had a good time. I'm glad. That's good. But this is what I would say to young people, men and women, that your youth is not an accomplishment. It's not. It's not an attribute that you've cultivated to a successful level. You have no part in your youth.
True.
So,
which is, for most people, also the biggest contributing factor to their hotness, or lack thereof.
Of course it is.
Which is particularly for a woman a big deal. And I think that's very common, that young people think they did something by being attractive, when really it's mostly youth doing the work for them. Oh, totally.
And especially when you're young people, young, beautiful women oftentimes take themselves very seriously. And their hotness. And you know, your friend who goes around as Slave Leia, when we met her, you were both 23, and she would talk about, you know, cast your look at me very carefully, because I'm a hothouse flower, and, very self-important. So what I'm saying is
big complaining always if, like, somebody touched her in a bar or something.
Right.
Like, tried to touch her butt, or it was always like, oh my goodness, can you believe this happened to me, like all these things.
It reminds me of the time I was in this bar. It used to be the Comedy Connection and turned to something else up in Faneuil Hall on the second floor. And I was just like walking down the hall. It was full of gorgeous blonde co-eds who were all like 21, and I was like 25. So I was the old guy there. And this total melodramatic blonde girl in a huff is storming out of the bar. Now, she's obviously had some big melodramatic fallout with some guy or something, and this is the world revolves around her because she's right out of the package and she's beautiful and blonde. And as she's walking past me, huffing past me,
Mm-hmm.
she pushes me, like, get the F out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
What she has to do is so important. So important. She's so important, and there's so much drama in her beautiful blonde life that you get out of,
Mm-hmm.
and it just, it's one of the things that's much like, and it goes right with being thrilled with yourself that you're young,
Mm-hmm.
because you didn't do anything for your beauty, which is really your youth. And that's why I say this is my imparting to men and women who are just young in your 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Form a personality, form a charisma that was not built in. Have an attribute that you attain. Be somebody that's not just because you're new. Because if your thing is, you know what? I don't know. I'm so young.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, dude, you could have grandkids you could have kids my age, dude. In other words, like, look how special I am. Look how young I am. It sounds great.
Oh, no, that's before I was born.
Oh, that's exactly right. That's the other thing, is that people love when I say, have you ever heard of Bryan Adams? Never heard of Bryan Adams. I said he was huge in the 80s. I wasn't born in the 80s. Yeah, I understand.
We have ways now to listen to music that came out before you were born.
I understand the warm and fuzzy feeling you get for declaring how novel and young and new you are, right off of the store shelf, etc. But that is the free bingo space of life. That is not an accomplishment. So what I want to do is just make sure that you bring something, because the stuff, you can't rely on the stuff that's all fleeting. Because that girl who was 21 is now 46.
Right.
The shoving people out of the way because she's hot and people will do it, that's all over. So I hope that she's have something else there. Something interesting that makes you you. Because if you're just living off of being cute and blonde till you're 29 and you've got nothing else and you've developed nothing else, whether it's being a extra funny person or a very thoughtful person or a knowledgeable person.
And I'd even go a step further. Is there are a whole bunch of people out there who think that their tastes in stuff is a personality. Whether that's their taste in food, their taste in extracurricular activities, what they do on weekends, things like that. Essentially, like, their consumption habits are a personality. Like, if you like going to fancy restaurants, that's like a personality trait.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, it's classic I like dogs stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the stuff that you do, like, it's like wanting to have pumpkin spice lattes as a personality trait. Like, that's not actually a personality.
No.
Liking pumpkin spice lattes.
No, it's a trapping.
Right. Or all these other things. But I think a lot of people substitute one for the other. And so they end up accumulating, they replace the youth with, like, live, laugh, love signs or something that they put up in their house. And, like, guys kind of do it too. It's like, I'm a guy, I like trucks and having beers and...
Oh, like Tim Walz. His casseroles.
Right, his casseroles. I like, all these things. And, that's also not being a person.
Well, yes. Yes. And there's another thing you need to do, is that this is the other part of the advice is this.
Tommy, New Hampshire says long walks on the beach. Exactly. It's like dating profile stuff.
Well, right,
I like travel. I like going to fancy hotels and taking pictures on rooftop pools. I like mimosas. Like, you're not a person.
Well, right. And I would say also, you've always got what you want to be as an individual in life. And you should be uncomfortable being simply just another sheep. You should be uncomfortable. It was like in the 90s, I was astounded by how every college dude at the BHP, the Beacon Hill Pub, dressed exactly alike. Abercrombie stuff and the baseball hat, like they were exactly the same. And I was like, it made me uncomfortable to think, like, you're good just being exactly the same, and he's exactly the same as him, he's exactly the same. It probably didn't matter because all the girls were exactly the same. Probably all slept with the guys who were exactly the same, so maybe it didn't matter.
Well, yeah, because then they check off the boxes.
Right.
The guy that I want to date makes this much money. He likes all the same fake things that I do. He's into IPAs. We're gonna get a dog that's an accessory together, and we like all the same stuff. Like now we've formed a partnership of being people who are just into cultivating an image of ourselves to ourselves. It's interesting. I don't know if this is where you were going with this at all, but performance leftism has become a status symbol like that. Like listening to The Daily from the New York Times and NPR to an extent, but I think there are podcasts that have replaced that now. But like having a bland left-wing politics is one of those sort of status symbols that you have. That's hence the Harris Walls obviously sign. Right? Well, obviously, we all obviously like pumpkin spice lattes and Kamala Harris. We all obviously don't like Trump. Like, and obviously, people who are like that would think that Tim Walz is genuinely a guy's guy because he's collected all the right symbolism and put it all on himself. And, oh, it's a camo hat. Trump voters love that.
Just he makes casseroles. So they could use some spice.
But they think that like these outer indicators, he likes casseroles, having beers, hunting. Of course they're going to like Tim Walz. Why wouldn't they? It's the exact same thing.
Right. He has all the things, and he says all the things. Well, boring white guy tacos. It's like, okay. I guess that's what you're supposed to say. But like, the other thing I want to say is about being like an individual. And if you're an individual, people are going to find you weird. Like I had friends growing up in the 90s who thought Norm Macdonald was weird. And I was like, yeah, he's fucking a genius, and you're stupid. So to you, that's weird. So, yes, I understand that. And, I'm not saying I'm a genius, but I also, like a lot of people, thought I was weird because I'm weird. Fine,
you are a unique person.
Yeah, right. And then,
you never know what's going to happen with Tom in the room.
So, and this is to do with discipline. This separates men from animals. Just because somebody says, like, oh, I want a pizza, and somebody else says, who are you going to call, doesn't mean you have to say Ghostbusters. It's better. It shows more sophistication to abstain. Because it's too easy. It shows more sophistication not to be a self-important blonde bitch at the bar. It's way too easy. And there's a lot of other girls here who could do that too, but they have too much taste to do it. They're working on being something individual and unique. It's the same thing with being in the call and deciding you're going to proclaim your youth as kind of a dunk and as to turn the spotlight on you for a second and how young am I? Ask me.
I don't know. I missed that comment, so I'm not sure.
Oh, it was just a tiny thing. It's just I remember specifically not using that line of attack, and this wasn't an attack, but when I'd be effing around with the guys, when I worked in hotels, like whatever, it's like it's an easy go-to, but find something else. Find the thing that's not the easy thing to go to. So I would say, this is all I want to say to my young friends. Find an individual thing to be and to say and to do. Or else, the blonde goes away and the youth goes away. And then you're 51, and then you're on the call with a bunch of 22-year-olds, and then they call you old, and indeed, that's all you are. Because you were all invested in being young 30 years ago and never developed anything else but the age. And with that, may God have mercy and send you on your way. Go take on the day.
Is the show over now? That's it?
Okay. Yeah. Now the show's starting.
Okay.
Were you recording that? Does it count?
I was recording that.
Oh,
That does.
that must have been rough. No, I'm just kidding. All right. We've got a new. I mean, there's some great teachers in the news today. So this is just fantastic. Should we start with Melrose, Massachusetts? Melrose, Massachusetts.
Well, we were on Danny's Vets live stream yesterday, and not everyone celebrates Veterans Day the same way, apparently.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Melrose, Massachusetts is. If you didn't know that you were in the city of Melrose and you drove through, you would think that the name of the city was Hate Has No Home Here. Because there are 4.8 billion Hate Has No Home Here signs. Because Melrose is made of really, really good people.
Oh, yeah.
And if you have any doubt, these are some of the realliest, goodest people that you'll ever meet. And they'll tell you. You look at the lawns, there are plenty of lawn signs. And they will show you. They've had good old-fashioned white privilege meetings for years, for decades now, way before it was in.
Mm-hmm.
They are rainbowed up. They are Hate Us No Home here in this house. They believe in science. Kamala, obviously. Mind your own damn business. Yard sign. They've got them all. These are really the best people, including the faculty at the high school.
Mm-hmm. And this is all thanks to the great Turtle Boy and his reporting here. Melrose High School teacher posts on Instagram. You can read here what he posts. He's a very nice person. He's a science teacher at the high school. You can tell he's a good person because his profile says he, him.
Yep, that's how you. There you go.
And he's posing in
the Abercrombie shirt for woke people.
Yeah, and he's posing in his classroom in front of a trans flag in a T-shirt that says "F Trump."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but it has the actual word. So that's nice. That's on his public Instagram. Is him in his F Trump shirt. So then his Instagram story says, "Happy Veterans Day." It says, "Celebrating Veterans Day, honoring all who served." There's a nice little graphic. And then in the text over it, it says, "Happy Veterans Day to any vet who didn't vote for Trump. Otherwise, I hope your Veterans Day is filled with tears and PTSD."
You know what? I find that veterans find depression, PTSD,
humor
battle-related
funny.
Trauma humor very funny.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I usually don't say thank you for your service on Veterans Day. I tell them I hope they have tears and PTSD. This guy, it just goes to show you, what kind of person do you think he thinks he is?
Yeah.
What kind of person do you think he thinks he is?
An incredibly noble person who so cares about marginalized people that he's willing to go out here and tell veterans he hopes they get PTSD and presumably die of it, because that's what many, many veterans do, including ones that I've known in Melrose who were worth 10 of this dude.
Mm-hmm. He's such a good person. He's telling some of the most now broken and fragile and imperiled people in this country,
who, by the way, were 150 times better people than he was to start with.
Yes.
And worth more to their communities by a huge margin than he is.
Absolutely.
He's telling them that they should die, essentially, is what he... If your Veterans Day is full of tears and PTSD, then that's what he's wishing for you. So this really excellent person who works for the public schools at taxpayer expense... Shall I search and find out what the average teacher salary is in Melrose?
Yes. Well,
I'll go find it. He also posted his thoughts about anyone who voted for the man who won with a plurality of the vote. "I clearly underestimated how many closeted, racist, homophobic, immoral bigots are in this bleep hole of a country. They'd rather vote for a convicted felon, openly racist rapist with no respect for women than for a woman. I have more respect for the uneducated plebes waving their Trump flags on the side of the road than for the millions who voted for him but would never stack up and admit it. You won't proudly admit that you voted for him because you know it was the wrong thing to do. My timeline was flooded with pro-Kamala voters and one person openly supporting Trump."
I wonder why that is. I wonder why the pro-Trump people don't congregate around him.
Yeah. So either I've done a good job of weeding out filth from my friends and followers list, or you're all effing cowards. On behalf of my daughter, my LGBT students and peers, and anyone else whose rights you've sacrificed, F you.
There you go. There you go. Right there, he's got the that's the soul cleanse, get out of jail free card right there.
He's not done.
Oh,
Filtered through and deleted a bunch of Trump supporters that I had followed. There are still 35 followers of mine that follow the dip bleep orange rapist Seabag on Instagram. Some of which I'll delete. Some I once had respect for, so I'll reach out and see if they follow him in support or just for lulz.
he's gonna reach out.
Mm-hmm.
Man, what a friend to lose.
Yeah, this seems like a lovely person. He's also posted
What's his name?
memes
Does it say
making fun of Catholics. Apparently he goes by Mr. K in the public school system. His name is Gevorg Keoyesan. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's Keoyesan. And obviously, like all good science teachers, he believes in the science that men can be women and women can be men anytime they decide to be. He has memes insulting Catholics. I am not generally a fan of firing teachers because of their personal views, but a good number of people in Melrose, are veterans or are related to veterans. A good number of people in Melrose voted for Trump. There's probably quite a bit of overlap between those groups. And wishing like suffering and death on people, calling people these names, racist, seabags, etc., on and on. You can't have a classroom where a student whose family voted for Trump or who, God forbid, has a veteran in it who voted for Trump, or who's lost a loved one in their family to PTSD. You can't have that person in a classroom.
No, the person has to be fired. Obviously, the person
there's
has to be
no way. I don't know that the school's done anything with this yet. This just came out today, so.
This is the town that couldn't get rid of their superintendent, Kuchenberger, who decentered Halloween a couple of years back. Who then
decentered Halloween, got rid of the mascot, mislaid $2 million.
Got rid of the mascot artificially using a student to put the petition together, and then acting like, wow, there's a student-led petition.
Yeah.
And then lost a whole bunch of money. Here's another teacher. So that person should not be there. Obviously, that just shows how toxic that freaking place is and awful. And and
the fact that he feels comfortable enough to post that stuff publicly where people can see it shows you where other people in the town are.
Right.
The fact that Turtle Boy is reporting on this, and I haven't checked on the Melrose community pages yet, but I would bet you money there are people in there defending this guy and saying that he's great and it's a totally understandable sentiment.
Right. And we'll say, in the very least, people are upset. Nerves are high. Anxieties are elevated now. But obviously that guy's a piece of garbage who is a psychotic, among other things.
Right.
You can't say that about everybody and not be a psychotic. He's a psychotic. He should be nowhere near kids. He should be bleep canned. Absolute. There's not even sorry. I mean, that should be over. In the psychotic in Connecticut who said that she was going to murder or wanted to murder people as well, somehow has so far just been suspended while they investigate.
Turn it off and try to go back to your freaking seat now.
Oh, here's a different guy.
Go. Take the...
This is a different guy. This is a guy, I think, in California. A kid walked in with a Trump hat. Guy went absolutely nuts.
Turn it off and try to go back to your freaking seat now. Go. Take the front... Can you send security up? Please, room B205. I have a boy who has a Trump hat on, and I'm not going to tolerate it today. Bye-bye.
Send security up. I've got a boy who's got a Trump hat on, and I'm not going to tolerate that today. Security should go up there and pummel that teacher until he's dead.
I don't care if you have a Harris hat or Trump hat. You're out of here.
He doesn't care if you have a Harris hat or a Trump hat. It's about hats. It's about hats.
Mm-hmm.
Then tell Miller I have the right to vote for a rapist and a child molester. Go for it. Go for it. I don't give a F.
Absolutely just fine. Just fine.
I'm going to squeeze outside. Grab your back. Tell Miller you can't wear that. You're allowed to wear a freaking rapist hat. Go for it. Go for it.
can hear the guy breathing.
Hey, Mom, move you out of my class. You can't take a teacher that's standing for girls' rights.
That's what he's doing. He's standing up for girls' rights. He's not being mean and abusive and has lost his freaking mind like the pussy he yelled at you at the party. No, he's standing up for women's rights.
Yeah.
And the other guy's standing up for trans rights.
It's very brave.
Yeah, he's being brave. I'm standing up for somebody. That's why I get to effing yell at you. That's why I get to have security come and grab you. You see? I'm standing up for people. It's like, you're a psycho.
But you have to be so narcissistic to believe that you're somehow starring in this movie where you're part of the resistance against Hitler. It's such insane behavior because you've like cast this movie now. Just like the people who, you know, when Trump was first elected, started like remodeling their house to put in safe rooms so they could hide migrants or whatever. Like, they just have this vision of themselves that's completely out of step with reality. And so their totally insane actions to them seem like some kind of heroism or specialness. And
totally.
So they think them screaming at a student like a lunatic is some kind of bravery or heroism, that they're, you know, like the student resistance in Nazi Germany that was executed or something, when in reality they are just psychos, and psychos find an outlet for their psycho behavior that lets them believe that what they're doing makes sense and is okay.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's even like the
usually
people
around women and children. Usually it's where they don't have to worry about reprisal.
Well, right. And I think that this even extends to the people that like feel the need to make some sort of Facebook statement about the election. I just want everyone to know that I'm horrified and disgusted by what went on here today. Like, or what are you the mayor of? Who's asking you for a public statement? Just go to work and come home. Just put up a picture of your cat on Facebook and leave the rest of us alone. Nobody needed to know your thoughts on the election. Do you know what I mean? When Biden won, I did not go on Facebook and go, I really hope any of my followers who voted for this man think about your actions, and I'm very disappointed in our country today. And like because it doesn't matter what I think about it. I mean, we have a podcast where we react to stuff, but I don't like put out a public statement to all my friends and family anytime anything happens about my thoughts on it. I'm not the president of the United States. No one cares what I think. I mean, apparently you guys care, which I love.
One of the kids in this classroom
here,
asked this teacher, who was going nuts, what was wrong with him.
Hey, excuse me. What's wrong with me?
I said, what did his hat say?
Trump. The rapist. Even Trumpers don't deny it. They just vote for him. Get rid of 20 million immigrants like me. You know who should get out? You know who owns this land? The freaking Native Americans.
I mean, okay, if that's where you are, if you think the Native Americans own the land you're standing on, literally.
Well, yeah, but also...
I mean, 65% of Native Americans voted for Trump, which is fascinating.
Don't buy in. His mind flew to a totally different subject. Well, now you're in trouble for something else, as a matter of fact. I'm pissed off at, the Native Americans own this land. He's a psychotic. These people are psychotics who need to be in places where they get wheeled out onto a porch with a comfortable blanket if the day is breezy. But they need to do that. They need to have sharing time where they get to hold the ball and talk about what they're... I'm serious. And they need little pleated cups where the orderlies make sure they really take the pill. Because sometimes they'll try to hide it, like in their cut or something.
Spit it out later.
Yeah, make sure they take the pill.
But don't you think that this is why it's so good and important that Trump won?
Yes.
Because otherwise these people would literally think that their thing was real.
Yes.
And, I mean, like, I would be disappointed if Kamala won. But, I mean, like, we're not living in fantasy land.
Right.
We both thought there was a strong possibility she could win, and we were going to get up the next day and, like, go about our lives and not start randomly screaming at people on the street.
Yeah, I was going to be somebody in my mid-30s in my Snapchat group.
And people of color and poor people and gay people and all the people that I care about aren't going to be safe in America. Neither the f*** are you guys? Just because you won doesn't mean we don't remember who the you voted for. You're not in the clear. And just please don't test your gangster on me, because you will end on a stretcher, gone forever. So serious. Nobody can talk to me unless you want to swing.
It's the EMT procedure where she's from. We're taking him forever.
You want to fight? Text me, call me, whatever. Anybody else, stay the out of my face. And if you voted for Trump, literally, please delete me, block me, get rid of everything of me, or step to me so that I know what's up and I can handle you how I see fit. Please just come forward. We know. Just tell me. Or leave. Please. The door.
Maybe she should also move somewhere away from loud locomotives.
All other people.
No, loud locomotives.
Oh,
Like,
gotcha.
is she sleeping through the night, maybe? But this is the teacher we talked about. This is a teacher in Cheshire, Connecticut. I actually had a caller today who had a run-in with this teacher who also threatened a class 4 years ago or 8 years ago, whatever. So, I mean, that's what we've got. Is there other teacher news you wanted to get to, Alice?
Well, there's 3 more illegal teacher strikes in Massachusetts. We're now up to 3, where Beverly, Gloucester, and now, what's the third one? It's another North Shore one.
Marblehead,
Marblehead, right.
Yes.
Beverly, Gloucester, and Marblehead all now have teacher strikes going on because they're not getting enough money and paras, and they're, chanting. They're out there with signs. They have parents posting Instagram reels about how the schools need more resources. Meanwhile, the mayor of Gloucester is out here like, guys, we have a $7 million budget deficit. We cannot do this. Like, please be responsible.
Now, they haven't been as fantastic as, who was it, Newton last year?
Newton teachers love Newton.
Oh, yeah, they were the best. They haven't yet, but I guarantee you they will. Because
They're probably working on it.
these teachers stick together, so like the musicians from Newton will head over there, and they'll be working on anthems of why a teacher in Marblehead, Massachusetts has it so rough.
Well, and why wouldn't they? Because they're getting all this attention and positivity. Like, they saw the Newton one earlier this year. Why wouldn't they do this same stuff? So they're out here. Who's this one? They're out here doing this stuff. Let's look up the salaries. So let's see. Melrose has an average teacher salary as of, I think this is like the 2021 school year, maybe. Oh, good. Marblehead has $84,000 a year. Gloucester has, I think they were all about the same, actually.
Right. Anyway, they're getting paid well, but I want to get paid well.
I was notified.
Hold on, Marnie. And so they're extorting the kids, holding the kids hostage, as usual, like they do. And
keeping the schools closed while they scream at you and wish you were dead because you voted for Donald Trump.
Right.
So that's great. I really, really, one of the things I desperately want Trump to do is dismantle the Department of Education in this country, get there to be universal school choice, defund, disempower
that is a shame
these teachers' unions.
The money doesn't follow the kid. That should be a freaking constitutional.
Well, and
amendment.
I said to my friend, because I said to somebody oh, I hope the Department of Education goes away, and she's kind of moderate, and she was like, well, won't that impact funding and all this stuff? And I was like, how could it possibly be bad for our kids if we stopped paying the salaries of a bunch of bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., and we had that money to put back into our own schools? How could it be bad? And I looked it up, and do you want to take a wild guess, how much salaries are in the Department of Education in the federal government each year?
Department of Education, federal government, they are
The payroll in there.
98.5.
I don't know what that means, but
98,500.
oh, I meant the total salary of the
all of
the payroll.
money?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
$3 billion a year. $3 billion a year could go back into our school. That pays the salaries of people who live down in Washington, D.C., away
Right.
from your kid's school. Like, it's bad enough, the administrative bloat in our own school systems.
Right.
But, like, if you want there to be more teachers in your school building, why would you want to pay the salary of a bunch of federal employees down in Washington? It makes
right.
zero
And
sense.
people will say, okay, that means that there'll be some schools in Alabama they'll be totally unattended to by oversight and standards, etc. It's like, well, right now we're just managing the decline on an industrial scale.
Mhm.
Right now, the kids are being churned out of these schools with no ability to read or do math, with no skills whatsoever, unprepared.
Well,
to be
the
in
teachers
college.
demand raises.
Right.
Tell
Right.
your kid they're terrible
Yes,
for
the
being
schools
white.
are failing. Okay.
Yeah.
Schools are failing, and the ones that are supposedly good, like let's say Melrose High School, are packed full of psychos. Okay, I know you.
And this equity stuff is toxic, and it does take a huge bite out of the effectiveness of the schools. It's a debate right now in a lot of woke school districts whether or not it's fair to disadvantaged students to teach any of the kids Algebra 1 in 8th grade. There's no reason to teach Algebra 1 in middle school. No, they can all do it. That's not fair to the kids that aren't ready for Algebra 1. It's so bad. The state of the schools, national, even in places where there's good schools, like around here, the state of the schools is abominable. The teachers' unions have so much to answer for. The fact that people still believe their shtick at this point when they go out here and they get the schools closed for months and they do stuff like this despicable guy who's out here wishing veterans and people dead. Like, it's so unconscionable that we give them any money whatsoever.
Totally, absolutely. Man, the education system needs to collapse. It just does. Okay, moving right along, Allison. We need to get to FEMA because this is turning out to be really a historic level scandal.
You mean one rogue employee? Nothing to see here.
Exactly.
Moving right along.
This is here with Roland Martin, who, by the way, could get Roland. I bet you nobody else thought, like, should I just reach out to her? There she is talking.
Well, here's the thing. If you have a lot of covering up that you've been doing and hiding of stuff that you've been doing, and there's a new boss about to show up and clean house, I'd be pretty freaking careful about throwing disgruntled employees under the bus.
Oh,
Publicly.
absolutely.
And going out here and telling people that this woman who was targeting Trump supporters just did it on her own decision making, and this is all her fault, and she's just making us look bad. There's no such policy as this.
Yes, here's Marnie Washington.
Stating that I was fired. They all alleged that these actions were made on my own recognizances and that it was for my own political advances. However, if you look at the record, there is what we call a community trend. And unfortunately, it just so happened that the political hostility that was encountered by my team, and I was on 2 different teams during this deployment, they just so happened to have the Trump campaign signage. FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated. This is a colossal event of avoidance, not just in the state of Florida, but you will find avoidance in the Carolinas. Senior leadership will lie to you and tell you that they do not know. But if you ask the DSA crew leads and specialists what they are experiencing in the field, they will tell you. Demand for FEMA to give you those incident reports.
So as a matter of policy, FEMA is telling people to skip interactions with Trump-supporting houses and dwellings.
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be a whole lot of people going to jail for this.
Yeah, and so I guess she's sort of alleging that they're doing this because there was a pattern of, Trump supporters being mad at them when they showed up. Maybe because they mishandled the whole thing and they took forever to show up. And when they did, they caused problems for people on the ground, which FEMA denies happened.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would like to see those incident reports of them having disagreements with people on the ground because, among other things, the Biden administration told us that FEMA did an amazing job and everybody was thrilled with what a great job they did. So, I do want to see the incident reports. And Steve Merrimack in the chat says she's going out blasting with both barrels. Yeah, I would too if I was her, wouldn't you? Did they try to pin the entire scandal on her?
Oh, burn it all down. Of course.
Let's go. I can't wait. And there's been all kinds of news stories going around left-wing media of like how all the DC career bureaucrats, especially the DOJ, they're scared. It's going to be worse than last time. He's going to fire us all. Freaking good.
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
Good. And I don't say that from a place of hatred. Like, I want those people to go out and get other jobs doing whatever that they do that's useful to society so they can support their families and whatever. I just don't want to support a permanent overclass of bureaucrats who rule all our lives, who we pay to bother us all the time and do everything terrible to make our lives worse constantly. Like, why do we have to pay for this like permanent bureaucracy to be here and it's a blight on our lives, on our economy, on our political system. They're inept. They are full of inertia. They never move or change. They blocked a lot of what Trump did last time, and they have got to go.
And they're radical ideologues, and that's an important thing. Speaking of radical ideologues, I'm going to bring it home for a second here. This is Boston Mayor Wu. And this is what happens when you get captured in a blue state like Massachusetts, or California, I guess, but mostly Massachusetts, is that you have dead enders in the governor's office and the mayor's office who, since Trump is going to be, even though we have an immigration crisis in Massachusetts where we've filled up the hotels, where we've had child rapes happen way too often, etc. The Mayor Wu, of course, is, since Trump is going to be president, is protecting the illegal rapists and murderers.
So can we talk about the thing that we were talking about as you were walking in, which is, to me, it's hard to rate the worst of the agenda, but apparently this is a day one item. This mass deportation thing, we're a sanctuary city. What do you say to people who are living in the kind of fear you talked about? What is the city and the state going to do to protect them?
So it's important to know that there are laws on the books already here in Boston. And again, as early as...
Remember, we're talking about criminals.
Right.
And others here who should not be here.
Yeah, remember the story we talked about a little while ago where they had an ICE detainer for this guy who was not supposed to be here, who was raping a 5-year-old from the age of 5 to 10 continually? I mean, and they let him out on $1,000 bail and ignored the ICE detainer?
2014, we, as a city, passed protections with, I should say, full support of local government leaders and law enforcement leaders. The Boston Trust
You can always find a law enforcement leader who's hack enough to want to join in with you.
Act puts strict prohibitions on local law enforcement from being pulled into becoming the enforcement arm for the whims of whatever the sort of approach of federal immigration law might be.
The whims of the federal immigration law. In other words, they're letting them back out onto the streets to go rape and murder again, so ICE can hopefully eventually find them, but they're not handing them over.
Right.
Which is gross, obviously. But that's what this is what you wanted in Massachusetts. This is what you get. It's dark, it's broken, it's rape, it's murder. Congratulations.
Not only do they cheerlead for these policies in the government, but we know tons of people who in 2020 and 2021, during all the Black Lives Matter stuff, were donating to these bail funds and then crying when the bail funds that they donated to released, in the case of Melrose, like a sexual predator right back into Melrose. And they were like, I don't understand why they'd use it for this guy. Who do you think needs to be bailed out? Sometimes innocent people, yes. But these aren't like political dissidents that you're bailing out. This is like the worst of the worst people. Yeah, it's the guy who's jerking off in a parking lot. That's what that guy in Melrose did. He was like jerking off in a parking lot looking at people. And he lives across the street from you, and the bail fund that you donated to is going to let him right back out. It's insanity. The people in this state not only politically vote for these policies.
I'm going to bail him out again.
They not only politically vote for the policies, they contribute to like getting these criminals out of jail. It's the most backwards, insane stuff. This state is run by absolute lunatics. You said dead enders, like these like blue wave dead enders. I happen to happen into the mask COVID dead ender community today on Twitter because I saw this woman's thread, Maria Gillespie, on how to get a local museum to hold a Masked Monday event so that you can go to the museum and they can have a day when everybody masks at the museum for COVID-safe people.
It's for your COVID-cautious community, Alice.
Right, COVID-cautious community. She also has an online ebook. It's a little children's book that you can read to your child to explain to them why your parents are the only freaking weirdos making you still wear a mask to school.
She wears a double mask. She has a T-shirt on that says, if you see a mask, wear a mask.
Yeah, and so this is her book. It's entitled, it's called Shine by Maria Gillespie, A Pandemic Story in 2024. And I'm going to read you a short excerpt from this. "No thanks, I'll keep my mask on," he said firmly. "We're proud to be COVID cautious. Mom always said we're doing the right thing for ourselves and our community. And for Marley. Meow." He straightened his shoulders proudly, suddenly no longer nervous. So he's at like a school concert, I guess. He knew the song inside and out. "Okay, we're just going to sing the main chorus," the teacher said. "I want to hear all 4 lines, starting with 'You have to burn to start glowing.'" "Yep," said Ellison. So then it shows all the little kids singing the song, and he's the only one in the mask. And it says, Ellison blew towards the beams and watched dust particles dance excitedly in the breeze, just like the tiny invisible bugs that float in the air, he thought. The music started and Ellison sang his heart out. He saw his mom recording with her video camera in the front row, giving a thumbs up or pausing to burst into applause. And it shows like him shining. So she's trying to normalize here by writing her own children's book about it. The idea that your kid is the only one in the school wearing the mask. Right. It's okay that I'm the only one. We're the only ones that know about the invisible bugs that are in the air killing us all. That's a lunatic thing to force your kid to do. So anyway, yeah, the COVID cautious community is struggling right now. So we feel for them.
Okay.
I hope they recover.
Pieces of sound here I want to get through. Here's KJP.
President Biden says that he's not going to pardon his son Hunter. Is he going to ask Donald Trump to do that?
I don't have anything else to share about that. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole on this. I've been very clear. The president's been very clear when we've been asked this question.
There you go. I get the feeling he will. Mike Huckabee is your new ambassador to Israel.
Is that one of the ones Trump said on Truth or not? Because I'm seeing people say it might not really be true that like Rubio's state, they are saying that the Trump camp is deliberately leaking fake names to specific individuals to see where leaks are.
I back Huckabee
because they're
on this. Here's in 2017.
My feelings personally, and I'm speaking only as a person, I think Israel would only be acting on the property it already owns. I think Israel has title deed to Judea and Samaria. There are certain words I refuse to use. There is no such thing as a West Bank. It's Judea and Samaria. There's no such thing as a settlement. They're communities, they're neighborhoods, they're cities. There's no such thing as an occupation.
That they get out of their minds.
So my guys...
Huckabee is, yes, he's on Trump's Truth Social. Mike Waltz, Florida. But, like, I don't think he had said, at least Stefanik. I don't see Kristi Noem. I don't see him saying Rubio on
Kristi
here.
Noem has happened, I'm pretty sure.
I've seen people
Department
reporting
of Homeland Security. Mike Waltz is what? Secretary of State?
Waltz,
No, that's Rubio, Secretary of State.
No, he's a national security advisor.
That's Waltz. This is Rubio.
He is
earlier
Waltz,
this
not
year.
Waltz, I believe. This says Witkoff.
Earlier this year, my guys today in commentary are very pleased with some of these people because of Rubio's response to the pro-Palestine questions earlier this year.
Senator Rubio, will you call for ceasefire?
No, I will not.
Gaza?
On the contrary.
Rubio,
are you filming it?
Wait,
so I want you guys to get this. I want them to destroy every element of Hamas they can get their hands on. These people are vicious animals who did horrifying crimes. And I hope you guys post that.
And what about the civilians that are being killed every day?
Hamas should stop hiding behind civilians, putting civilians in the way. Hamas knew that this was going to lead to this. So Hamas has stopped building their military installations underneath hospitals.
So you don't care?
I am fine with Rubio. I want him to be. I'm not going to let you take him away from me.
Well, I just am saying not all of these announcements have been on Trump's Truth Social, and there's people on Team Trump saying that unless it's on Trump's Truth Social, it may or may not be true because they're leaking fake.
Holy, there's no way this is true.
What?
I'm honored to announce that I have nominated Pete Hegseth
Yeah, I saw that too.
as the Secretary of Defense.
Mm-hmm.
This is Caroline Leavitt.
Yeah, this is Donald Trump has that one on his Truth Social too. Stephen Witkoff for Special Envoy to the Middle East.
Hegseth is the hunky guy on Fox.
I know.
I am for it.
William Joseph McGinley as White House counsel. Have not heard of all these people.
No.
John Ratcliffe, director of the CIA. John Ratcliffe, that was his DNI, his Director of National Intelligence last time. Do you remember that?
Yeah, he's been solid.
He's good. And then Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense. Pete has spent his entire life as a warrior for the troops and the country, true believer in America. But Kristi Noem and Marco Rubio are not on his Truth Social yet.
Well, I didn't love the Noam pick.
I didn't love the Noam pick
Although
either. I think, but some people are saying he's like trial ballooning people, like he's throwing it out there to see what the reactions are, and B, that they're testing for leaks because the leaks were so bad in the first administration because people weren't loyal that they're like telling people they don't trust things that aren't true to see if they leak them to the press. That's the scoop. That's what people are saying. But anyway, so the Rubio thing could be true. The what's it called? The Noam thing could be true, but I have not seen that. I think Noam was a bad pick. That was when you said Noam is for the Homeland Security. I was like, why her? Like, what would she have to do with any of that?
She's good looking with great breasts.
You could just pick Carrie Lake. At least she's in a state that's like a border state.
Yeah, but
and she doesn't have anything else
Carrie
to
Lake
do.
keeps losing. Trump doesn't like losers.
I mean, true, but at least you're not taking anybody out of the existing government. He just can't pick anybody else who's in the House of Representatives.
Okay, should we do the chat?
Let's go to the chat.
Hey guys, hope all is well. Minahan had mentioned this last week, and he's not really much of a political scholar, as you know, but there are never Trumpers out there that are actually rooting for something bad to happen to America, like a World War III, like another 9/11, so that they can all pound their chest with pride and rub it into our faces that Trump was actually not the right pick for president, and that, you know, everything they say negative about Trump is in all reality true, or in their reality. And I find that hard to believe that there are people out there that are rooting for a World War III, rooting for another 9/11, so that they can feel like they were right about Trump. And it's just sickening because I'm not a fan of Joe Biden. I'm definitely not a fan of cackling Kamala Harris. But I realize and respect the fact that, you know, Biden's president and Kamala would have been president, and it would have stunk for a few days, but I would have ultimately rooted for her to do well because I'm an American citizen. I want the country to be safe and secure and the prices to be lower, and I would have rooted for Kamala to do that. And
Now, I know that some people say Kamala and some people say Kamala. I'm pretty sure it's definitely not Carmilla. I think.
You know, it didn't happen. It wasn't going to be something that I would have pointed out and been upset or, you know, pointed fingers at the other side and said, see, you guys should have picked Trump.
I would have pointed fingers.
I just don't get why the left
Joe Biden's
and these
term.
never Trumpers feel like something wrong needs to happen for them to feel justified that, you know, Trump shouldn't be president. I don't know. Seems strange to me.
Yeah,
But
there are some people just obsessed with him, and so they can't get it out of their minds. And they would love to see him fall flat on his face. That way they could yell at us. And that's what, like, the bulwark is all about now.
I mean, and it's so, and I think it's partially true. Like, I definitely am planning to point it out when Democrats screw things up. Like, not because I'm like rooting for them to screw things up, but because I think they will, and when they do, I'm going to point it out because
And
like,
that way the
because
Biden-
I knew that they would, and then they do, and then I say like,
Yeah.
see what Biden did.
In that way, the Biden administration has been very fulfilling.
Yeah,
in that way.
although I still, like Steve's saying, like I still do wish that things at the grocery store were cheaper more
Yes.
than I want to be able to say I was right.
Hey, Tom. I know you're pretty good friends with VB, or Doug, as he is now known.
Absolutely.
Just saw the post about him getting the axe. Very sorry to hear that.
Fired from WGY in Albany, and yeah, the story of it is it's so big radio story. It's like the usual. I won't go into the details, but it's very much like me and Michael Graham's firing from TKK years ago, where they said, by the way, you guys, show's sounding good. The new guy came and said, the show's sounding good. Michael, we'll talk about your contract right after Christmas break. And 1 hour later, we were terminated. Freaking radio. I mean, not my company, obviously, but iHeart.
Always seemed like a pretty decent guy.
Great guy.
Actually, seems like a nice guy. But I might want to recommend Awaken 180 to him. And if that's not the case, then he should go see a liver doctor. Something's going on there. I don't know. Just saying.
I don't know. Is he having a fat? I haven't seen him. I don't even know if the picture of the Herald is recent. But
yeah, we haven't seen him in a while. He used to live right around here, and his kids are similar ages to our kids. They're super, super nice. So
Yeah. And if he had liver problems, he's not a drinker, so it would be because of he used to be a big, like, orange soda, Coca-Cola guy. You know, which also
I don't know anything about his health.
Yeah, I don't know anything about his health either.
So I can't weigh in there. But super nice guy.
He's a what do you mean nice guy? He's our friend.
He is a nice guy, though.
He's a great guy. And I'm going to try to get him to be on the next All You Can Eat podcast. Or is that hurtful to do?
I mean, if you were fired, you'd want to be on every podcast you could be on, wouldn't you?
I guess so. Thankfully, we'll never
Hey,
find out.
Tom and Alice, just wanted to thank you again
Danny.
for promoting and joining the 4th annual Veterans Day stream
Thank you,
last
it's
night on
fun.
YouTube.
Anytime.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I always appreciate you coming on. You've been so loyal and generous with your donations and your time, and I always enjoy chatting with you. I do apologize for our friend there who had some choice words for Alice. I think, not that you need me to white knight for you, Alice, but it got to the point where he was just kind of annoying everyone, and frankly, I should have used my producer instincts and booted him a lot earlier. So
Yes.
apologize for that. And also probably
Danny, I assure you, Alice has not one bit of caring about being called that word whatsoever. Believe me, she is so incredibly dead inside and has been for quite a while that names will not bother her. Believe me.
we'll do it on a weekend next time. I think the Monday night thing was a little tough for people, a little low energy at that point. But all that aside, just short of $800 raised for Wounded
Nice.
Warriors, so which is our certainly a record for us in a given year. So
That's a
thank you
link on
again
my
for
Twitter,
hopping on.
too, for that, if you
maybe
wanna
next year we'll
contribute
do
to
some
the
pre-planning. You guys can teach me how to how to write a show run out, and we'll figure something out.
Do we know?
To make it a little bit more organized and fun for everybody. But still enjoy it no matter what, and nonetheless, hope you guys
Congratulations.
did as well. Have a good
Thanks
night.
so much,
Thank you.
Danny. Thanks for doing it every year.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, the dude who used the B word on you, he was just so like
He just
wasted
wasn't
from,
really
from start to finish.
making
that
sense with
I
things.
missed that kind of.
I made him mad early on, and then he just was, I don't know.
Habibis.
Hey.
Food for thought.
Yes.
You were talking yesterday about Seth Moulton's moderating to the fury of the political left in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember our beloved friend Michael Graham had the theory that the only way to get Massachusetts out of the deep blue abyss was to prop up and support moderate Democrats and just edge us out little by little by little. Now, I don't agree with that, but
I don't either.
Wouldn't you think that's a match made in heaven? I wonder if Michael is making any calls to Moulton.
That's interesting.
That would be interesting. I don't agree with it. The other thing is, I wonder if our beloved friend Michael Graham, in the solace of the voting booth or the mail-in ballot, if he actually did not vote for Trump. I find that hard to believe. I know, Michael, you've got to do what you've got to do for your friends and your contacts. I didn't see no photo of no ballot from you. But it's
That's
okay. It's our secret. You voted for Trump. Love you. Bye.
I don't think so.
I think you want to believe.
I had an off-the-record conversation with him in which he told me explicitly that he wanted Harris to win so that the Republican Party could reset. So I think that he didn't.
Yeah, and he and Moulton, I guess, are a match made in heaven then, because Moulton obviously wants the Democratic Party to reset too. So
Moulton and Michael.
Yep, there they go. They can work together to moderate all of us back to what they think we should be. My school, actually, Tufts, has announced to Moulton that they will no longer have a connection with his office, so he can't get any political interns from the Tufts for political science school anymore because
what a sanction!
Because
he believes in science.
Not even that much science. Just he thinks maybe if you were born a guy that maybe you shouldn't be on the girls' sports team.
Right.
He's willing to discuss it.
A couple of shows ago, that poor lonely human being in Merrimack name dropped me after promising that he would no longer participate in this rivalry anymore a few weeks ago, and after saying that he wouldn't mention me anymore. I told you guys that he wasn't a man of his word. I told you that he's an egomaniac. He can't help himself, and it's so pathetic to watch. And I can't even take a victory lap on this because I knew it was going to happen because it was part of my plan. What a sucker. I knew that polls and talking about polls and maybe questioning something that Alice does would get him triggered, and he played right into my hands.
Oh, wow.
What a sorry individual.
Wow.
Alice, I'm sorry that, you got triggered as well, but honestly, I don't care if you talk about polls for an hour every day. I'm here for it. But I absolutely knew that was going to trigger Steve. It did. And again, it's just another victory for me over that pathetic, sorry excuse of an individual. I told you guys he was full of it. I told you guys he was a fraud. And once again, I am vindicated.
So it's interesting. The Steve in Steve from Gloucester fight is actually a big topic on other podcasts, but they don't generally call our the chat. So please do from now on.
Aren't you feeling that? You don't feel that? Inflation's down. The dollar's worth more. Everything costs less. Aren't you happy? Do you think the air is so thin up where Scott Pelley lives looking down upon the rest of us that he has hypoxia? Do you think, what a buffoon. You know why inflation is down? Totally. Because it was at
Totally. That's a great Pelley you did, Dr. Cheswick. Well done.
An all-time high. And it has come down a bit. That's true. The problem is it was in double digits because they strip out food and fuel. And they do that to make it single digits. If they added that in, the number would be astronomical. Astronomical. It's just so disgusting to me that these people act and talk down to the rest of us. I'm not going to eat at your greasy spoon. I'm going to go to a 5-star Michelin-rated restaurant right after this interview.
25 years ago. Now she runs the place.
My mother used to always say, gotta vote Democrat. They're for the poor people.
You grew up in a Democratic household?
Yes.
But you just voted for Donald Trump?
Yes.
Inflation is down by more than half. Interest rates are falling, mortgage rates are falling, wages are going up.
There you go. All right. What do we got here? Let me see. Ready else?
Mm-hmm. Me and Peter are ready.
Unhand that microphone, young man.
Hey guys, Paul in the car.
Hey, Paul.
About 20 minutes in on the power of pander. And I had to pause it because I had to reply in
real time.
Alice, you were making the statement about the vibes and AOC and why people were voting for her and not Trump, or at least commenting on why AOC was asking, her constituents that question. And I disagree. I don't think it has anything to do with vibes. I think it has everything to do with people in this country are effing fed up with the left. And yeah, I think locally they'll still vote for the people in the face that they know and see, which flies in the face of why they would vote for Trump. But it ain't a vibes thing. I truly don't believe that. I think this was, collectively as a country, we knew we were on the wrong path. I mean, Brett Baer said that to Kamala a month ago. 80-something% of the people, 78% of the people said we're on the wrong track. That's why people voted for Trump. So I think locally they still feel in my state, New Hampshire, we voted for Kamala overwhelmingly, but my town voted for Trump, but we voted for Pappas as well. So it's like, what the hell? But I think that's what it is. I think collectively as a nation, we don't want the border open. We don't want this transgender issue to continue. We don't want the wars to continue overseas. We want inflation down, excuse me. But I think locally, some of these people still just can't vote Republican. And I think that's what it is. It's not vibes. It's all just being completely fed up. Anyways, my 2 cents. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Kelly A. won, right? She's governor. This guy
Yeah.
Pappas, what's his deal? Is he a Democrat?
Mm-hmm. I think that
is he the?
It's probably like all of the above. Honestly, I think that's probably some of it. But yeah, this stuff happened everywhere, though. Even in like open seats, even in places, Trump ran ahead of a lot of Senate Republican candidates. So I do think there's some. I mean, I think who the candidate is and what the person thinks of that person matters.
I absolutely agree.
I do think there's also something too, like I think for local people, you vote for the person you know better too, a lot of times. And I think there's also something I hear people say sometimes too, which is
Maybe
that they
we'll
vote.
keep this answer short, Alice, for obvious, audible reasons.
That even though they want a change in the presidency, they'll vote for like the Democrat in Congress because they want a check. Like they don't want it to go too far in any direction.
Correct. There you go.
I hear people say that. I don't know if that's really true.
This is Ed at noboner.com. That was a weird email address.
Please tell me I did not hear correctly that Tom was taking boner pills at 23?
No.
Seriously? I think you mentioned that your ex there, Sade, Sheba, whatever the hell her name was, broke you so bad that with your next girlfriend you had to get a prescription?
Yeah, her name was Susan, and she was from Malden. And, yeah, it was right around whenever they became so... Oh, no. I wasn't that... They didn't have it back then. So this was before it was around. But I needed something, or it didn't exist. That's right. In that when that happened, yeah, I was 24 or 25. It was a month into our relationship, and I remember her doing a couple block punt moves that kind of threw my mind off, and then she took the fun out of everything when it came to that stuff, and it was total yeah, and then yeah, so that's what it was. But it was young, but Tim, I'm telling you, dude, I would go on tour to counsel young men on, one, not calling people old, and two, how to deal with erectile dysfunction. Absolutely. I had to struggle through it, by the way, myself. My mind had to fight through
Nobody
it.
told you?
Well, I had somebody saying, Thomas, perhaps we should try something else.
Nothing's adding up here. You're around my age. If I'm not mistaken, those weren't available at the time. So either you were taking a placebo or a sugar pill, or you were actually much older. I don't know. All I can get down to is, was it that she broke you, or that, I don't know, the nights in the South End were really what you lusted for?
Incorrect. That is incorrect. No, that was her, a thing unique to her. That was absolutely her. I've had one long-term girlfriend after her, and everything was bueno, and then I've obviously dazzled and blown Alice's mind repeatedly now for 14 years.
We have proof. We have 5 kids.
Exactly. So, yeah, that is purely on her. That's the problem. You can't have a crickety wasp with another crickety wasp, and that was her total thing.
Thank you so much for listening. Peter appreciates you. He does. Thanks for those of you joining us on the live chat. You can join that at Patreon. patreon.com/burnbarrel. If you like listening to the show for free, you can go to burnbarrelpodcast.com. That's also where you can leave chat messages, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, follow us on Twitter, all the fun places that you like to listen, to make sure you rate us and leave a review.
C'est la vie.